From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive, recorded Saturday, 26 May 2012, episode 17. It's rigged, I tell ya. Here we are with another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and you'll notice that next to me is not Robert Garza. We have a special guest who's making a repeat appearance with us from last week, Mr. Troy McGonagill.
Greetings.
Greetings.
I'm strikingly similar to Robert, but I'm not him.
You're much taller. Check a couple of things here. There we go. Check your mic real quick.
Check.
You're checked. All right, awesome. So, yeah, unfortunately, my co-host, ScubaBob, came down with a little malady. Not a melody, but a malady. And so he couldn't be with us this week. So I had Troy, who I got to dive with this afternoon, which was awesome.
Totally.
totally awesome. It was so fantastic. I just can't even tell you. It was just amazing. We were underwater, and it was the bubbles going everywhere. It was just so wild.
And it was, I think, even more so for me since it had been almost 3 years,
yeah.
Which is embarrassing, but
strange but true.
I'm back.
I'm back in the saddle. Got back in the water, back in the BC. Back in the before time.
Back in the BC.
So since this was your first dive in 3 years, why don't you share with everybody what it was like? And you'll probably notice we have a little craziness going on with noise in the background. We're coming up on, of course, Memorial Day holiday, and so of course there's lots of people out doing the barbecue thing, etc. Which of course, what better fashion to go post dive than to have lots of food?
Yes.
So we immediately came back, and anybody who dives knows that after a dive you are famished. So we were like, okay, you would have to resist the temptation to just go out and get a burger or something.
Grab something.
Because we knew we were planning to do this barbecue thing. So we have our families together and at Casa de Wade and fired up the barbecue, and we just had sufficient quantities of grilled charred meat.
And we'll be topping it off later with an ice cold bowl of ice cream,
Yes.
I suppose.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it has to have the pièce de résistance will be a fine thin mint. The minty fresh taste of chocolate chip mint ice cream.
Or perhaps a Choco Taco.
Oh, I've never had one of those, and it looks interesting, but the idea of a taco with ice cream and chocolate is strange.
Its appearance is odd. However, it
Appearances can be deceiving.
is distinctly flavorful. That's my word.
So let me ask about the Choco Taco thing. Is the shell? That was Mrs. Troy McGonagill extolling the virtues of Choco Taco. So is the shell actually a taco shell, or is it some confectioner type of
it's the
thing?
same, like a sweet cone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not so bad.
It's just fashioned into the shape
Yes.
of a taco shell.
It is a faux taco.
Yes.
Yes, it's a dessert faux taco.
I think comparing a typical taco shell versus the Choco Taco shell, I'm going to go with the Choco Taco shell.
Ah, okay. That'll work. So, Anyway, we're gonna top that off after the show here. However, you were starting to talk about.
Oh yes. Today
dive.
was good. The visibility wasn't great. However, it was.
What would you say the visibility was about?
It was maybe 5 feet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah.
Depending on where you were. I mean, when we got deeper, it opened up a little bit.
Yeah, it was nice. Now, when we got down to the depth, that was where I was really comfortable.
Yeah.
50 feet or so was good. Although our max depth was 66.
66. Yep.
I have to say though, I'm glad I went today. I'm glad I accepted the offer because I just have not realized what I've been missing, what I've been just not partaking in, and I intend to do more of that this summer.
So what was going through your head as soon as we dropped down? Of course, you're okay. I've got to get my skills back here.
Yeah.
And while you're telling folks, I'm going to make an adjustment to your camera. So go ahead.
The first thing was we went over the basics again, since it had been such a long time, and we got that down, no problem. Got the hand signals back in my mind, and the funny thing was getting used to the buoyancy of my new dive suit, which is a full 5 mil, and
neoprene rules.
Yes, but it's funny, the difference of that, the buoyancy of it. So I was up and down and up and down.
Right.
So once I got that under control, it was great. Everything kind of just came flooding back, and I was able to control my breathing pretty well. I was proud of that. Did pretty good. We were down for 53 or so minutes, and still had 500 psi, but in relation to Rob's 1,000, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I've been accused of not breathing.
Yeah,
which of course everybody who knows, the number one rule in diving is, of course, continue breathing. You don't hold your breath.
No, I was trying to mimic the inverted position that he takes often when we're down, especially. Well, although I see why you do that, especially when you come to some of the caves that we came to.
Yep.
You can just come right down and not stir up the silt.
Exactly.
That's
exactly
it's
right.
perfect. So I need to work on that because there were some awesome caves down there. I just wish the visibility would have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I'd never seen those before. That was great.
Yeah, actually, I was wishing I'd brought my primary light. I always dive with my secondary, my BC light, which is always attached, but I was wishing that I brought the full meal deal this time. So, yeah, when we're on the surface, the visibility actually looked very clear.
It did.
So I was anticipating we were going to have visibility of 20 feet. And so I was like, we'll be good. But then when you realize that the way the thermal was, that the visibility just below the surface wasn't as good as we thought. And so that creates a nice layer above you that blocks the sun, so it gets kind of dark.
And then there was that one moment where we got on that, below that outcropping, that it was kind of hanging over us.
Right.
And I thought maybe we were diving deeper because it was getting darker. But I checked my depth, and no, we weren't going anywhere. And I just glanced upward, and there's this huge overhang covering us.
The abyss moment. I love it.
It was a little off-putting for a moment, but I was like, oh well.
Then the moment's gone.
And then I glanced over, and Rob was motioning down further, and then there was a cave there. That was cool.
Yeah, see, that's for folks who are starting to get a little I don't know, overwhelmed at certain points on a dive. My wife dealt with that on occasion, especially early on. I find that often the easiest way to counteract that is to get their attention on something that pulls their interest, and they focus on that, and suddenly they let the skills work. And it was just so it worked out nicely that we just came around the point where I knew we were going to get to drop right onto a couple of caves.
Let me ask you this. I didn't ask you earlier. Were there any points, because as a responsible diver, you were checking on me frequently.
Yeah.
You know, keeping your eye on where I was. And did you notice anything? Like, did anything seem? I know there's moments where you asked me if everything was okay, and yeah, it was fine. I didn't have any issues. But
Right.
The only thing I was kind of struggling with was keeping my buoyancy, a neutral buoyant position.
And that was the one thing that I noticed, that every once in a while you had a tendency to start to flow up, and so as soon as I looked back and saw that, I was looking to see if you were trending up or if you were trending down.
Yeah.
If you were continuing to trend up, I was going to come up to meet you and kind of make sure you didn't get into an uncontrolled ascent.
Yeah.
But in almost every case, you were either static or you were trending down.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you got it. You know what you're doing.
It was today really what it was coming down to was my breathing.
Exactly.
I was consciously observing the ebb and flow, or whatever the proper terminology is, up and down of, you know, inhaling, exhaling, how it moves.
I did not inhale. Sorry, couldn't resist. I just leapt out there and said, "Say it."
And then actually, there was that whenever we were returning, we had to stop and
For the safety stop?
yeah, the safety
Yeah,
stop.
yeah.
So then we're waiting for the countdown.
3 minutes.
And
yeah.
I was watching you, and you were, you know, as you're breathing, we're just remaining still. You're going up and down, and I was watching how far you were going, because you never actually
moved very much.
you never touched the bottom.
Yeah.
I, however, was holding the bottom with my hand, but then I was
Cheater.
okay. Well, you know, I was actually thinking, I was like, man, I'm cheating. I want to tuck my hands away, and I just want to float. But I know it's going to take some practice and
exactly.
and, you know, spend some time doing it. And
all the more reason to get out more often.
I'm
and
ready to
dive.
do it too.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know, and it's like any other activity. You set aside some time, and you can pull off as short or long a dive as you can squirrel away time for. I know as a family man, and you have children, and you know, and everything. You know, there's so many demands on your time. Being able to squirrel away a couple of hours to do a dive is often a challenge. Heck, it's even a challenge for me many times. But you know, it comes down to you know somebody who has gear,
Yeah.
so and he's always ready to dive. So you know, it's just kind of one of those things where you say, you know what, on this day, I'm going to squirrel away 2 or 3 hours, you know, for the prep time, post time, or whatever, to do a dive. Or hey, can we get just a 30-minute dive in? You know, we can go out to San Felipe Creek, which is no travel time.
I would
and
love to do that.
It's actually kind of fun to dive out there. Plus, now that I have a new personal scooter, underwater scooter, I got to try that out, and it is fun. I have used one out in San Felipe Creek, and it is fun to use it in there.
Are there parts of the creek that are? What's the depth? I mean, what are you going to average there?
8 feet if you drag something on the bottom.
Yeah. So you're really going to be hovering like around probably 6.
Yeah, it's pretty shallow.
6 feet or so.
Yeah, it's pretty shallow. But you know, I use it as helping people get experience with like drift diving and diving in a current. You know, we talk about it in the class. You know how you handle diving in a current, where you know the surface versus the bottom, and I can actually demonstrate practically all of those things that are covered in the course. So it's very convenient having a creek like that available for just to relax and dive and swim, but also for training.
You know, it's sometimes like with anything, if you're not consciously thinking of or focusing on something, it's interesting that our area here, we are in, you know, South Texas.
Right.
We've got a lot of options for diving.
We really do.
That aren't far away or even right next to us. We have a creek.
Yep.
We have a Great Lake.
Yep. And I don't not like a Great Lake, you know, like Great Salt Lake.
It's great as in
it's
great.
Great. It's awesome.
As in like Tony Tiger great, that kind of
great.
And it is though. I mean, it's awesome. It's a great lake.
It's a great lake.
But then we have, you know, I've never heard of anybody diving at the Rio Grande, but I guess that would be too shallow.
You know, it's like, typically around here it is.
The current's pretty strong there too.
Yeah. Well, evidently not too strong because people get across it.
Well, I have actually swam. I've actually done that, and the current's pretty strong. Depending on what the
If you see the light change, it's because my studio is being invaded by the wifeys. They're cooking chicken. And so, of course, they have to go through the studio to get... And, of course, now they're leaving the door ajar.
Ajar.
So now it's blocking my light.
It's not a jar. It's a door.
It's a door. Now they're blocking my light. That's just rude.
Oh, yeah. You got a shadow now.
I do. I got to... No, that would be Chato. Sorry. I couldn't resist. But, no, but... as far as areas to dive are often areas to swim around here. You've got the Frio River, which there are some areas that people go diving in, believe it or not. But because it is the Frio River, it is cold. Mm-hmm. Chalk Bluff out by Uvalde.
Yeah.
A lot of people go out there. And again, it's kind of shallow. Like
have you been to either one of those places?
No, but a friend of mine who I've gone diving out at Lake Amistad with before, he has posted video on our Facebook page about where he's done some diving out there, because he's got a camera like I do, and he goes out there and he videotapes some of it, and it looks pretty good. I mean, it's about the same as San Felipe. It's probably wider, if I remember the video correctly.
What's the river that goes through Garner Park? Is that the Frio River? That's not the Frio River, is it?
I don't know.
Let me look up.
I was going to say, on your Lumia 900.
900.
Oh, it's so good to
Windows
be among
7
friends. It's good to be among.
You know who you are.
That's right. We're talking to you. Now, I wonder if he's watching.
I don't know.
You know, I'll be really disappointed if he's home sick and is at least not jump. I don't see anybody in the chat room. So... I'm guessing he's not watching the show. I'll have to seriously verbally spank him for that.
Maybe he's just not feeling well at all.
Well, he was well enough to chat back to me, to text me back.
Well, that's true. It is. It's the Frio River at Garner Park.
Okay. And it is cold.
And it is, yes. I've been there.
It's chilly.
Even in summer, but it is super clear.
Yeah. Yeah. It is crispy clear. But, yeah, so just to reiterate for our friends out there who might be curious, so visibility right now is about 5 feet. Last time it was 15 feet, so it's dropped dramatically. I'd say the temps were probably at depth closer to about 74, about the way it is in San Felipe Creek right now.
I didn't even check.
Well, I could tell by whether or not I was going to have to, if I was feeling like I wished I'd had my 7 mil. I dive very comfortably in San Felipe Creek, which is roughly 72 to 74 year round. And I felt that. I felt the same in the 5 mil full as I do if I'm there. So it had to be around low 70s. So, and that was at 66 feet, so it was comfortable.
Yeah. So I was never uncomfortable.
The water has dropped some more. The the buoy that used to mark the dive chest that we use for training and as well as just navigation practice was at 13 feet. Now it's at about 8 feet. And the small boat, which is where the buoy is now, oh goodness, where the buoy is now is tied off to the small sunken boat, and that was at 20 feet. So, so the lake is getting lower and lower. And I heard that they're going to be letting more water out. So I just don't know how much more they can let out and still have it usable. I mean, it'd just be back to just a big channel.
Well, I think from what I've heard, what you hear often is, the lake ultimately is not for anything other than
flood control.
Yeah. It's not a recreation. It's not a, it was built it was filled for a purpose.
Right.
But just so happens that it more often is used for fishing and recreation and all those things.
Did they come back in?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, they're chatting. Meanwhile, my light is still not on. But you're right. It's just filled for a purpose, to control the flood.
Well, yeah. So that's some of the kind of response I've received from friends of mine in the.
They're basically saying, "Quit whining, it's not for you."
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
That's just kind of it's interesting when it's convenient for the tree huggers to tell you not to mess with things because it's become a habitat. Because I've read the horror stories, seen the reports on the news where some poor slob had some property, had a house on it, maybe left parts of the land fallow. It was previously it was like, mowed and everything, and then they just let it go. And so it kind of took on a new ecosystem. And when he goes in to clean it up, it's like, well, I'm moving back in or whatever. I want to clean all this rubbish up, mow the grass and cut down some of the trees, whatever. The EPA and some of the other ne'er-do-well government agencies come in and say, nope, you can't touch it. It is now a wetland, or it's now a whatever for the twin-crested red-bellied salamander. I'm like, stupid stuff. And now his property he can't do anything with it. I mean, I've seen this time and time again. All because he let the land become something different than when he first acquired it. Well, the Lake Amistad was simply a nexus point originally of some rivers that all came together, dumping into the Rio Grande.
Right.
It was a totally different ecosystem. Okay, so now it's been since the 60s, it's been a lake. So it's taken on a new ecosystem. But now that it's not convenient to maintain it at that level, the way the ecosystem has become, it's just a flood control. Now wait a minute, you can't have it both ways, or it's not right that you try to have it both ways. So they've created a new ecosystem with it, and they've decided that we can let whatever water we want out of it. I don't care about boaters and fishers, all the stuff like that. It's not just about that.
Wasn't there also an issue at the dam where they had one of the lower gates that they don't use as often?
That's what started
opened and got stuck, and they
Yeah.
couldn't close it, and they had to bring in a special dive team to come fix it.
And that's what started the precipitous drop. But I don't know what the purpose behind continuing, now that they've got it fixed, to continuing planting another 20 feet.
I think there's for the purpose of irrigation downstream.
Meanwhile, all the water that was being let out before, they couldn't have captured. I mean, we've got several lakes downstream.
Yeah, I know. I don't know the whole thing with it.
I'm hoping to get my light back. There we go.
Hey, there you are, Rob. Where you been?
I'm telling you, it was awful being in the dark.
Man, I was here by myself, I thought.
And then we've got YMCA going out here in the audience. Alexa,
please move along. You can't do the wave with one person.
I know. It's not a wave. It's just standing up and down.
It's just a whoa.
It's just standing up and down. So anyway, for me, any dive is a good dive, and I had a great time.
You know, what was surprising to me was where we started, where we went, the distance.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing how far you travel underwater. That's why, more often than not, what you find is if you're trying to get from point A to point B and you need to get there in a hurry, I always tell people, if you're on the surface and your navigation skills are up, take a reading, get down. You will move much faster underwater with not nearly as much effort. You'll get there quicker underwater than you would if you're swimming on the surface. So just, that's another one of the 17 reasons why you should keep up your navigation skills, because you can get places faster.
Yeah, that's something that I need to work on. That's one thing I wanted to ask for the benefit of myself, but whoever else may be tuning in.
Yeah.
It certainly, in your opinion, wouldn't it be beneficial for every diver to maintain some sort of, I don't know, continuing education schedule, or at the very least, keep sharp on your skills?
I I try to stress to students as much as possible that the skills that you, and we know this from our own personal lives, the skills that you practice are the ones that will be available to you when you most need them. And so many times divers get out there and they only keep using the skills that are automatically needed, buoyancy control, things like that. You almost never need things like mask clearing, other than maybe a little bit if you get a little water in your mask. But the handling the full mask removal, replacement, the emergency swimming, control emergency swimming ascent, taking your gear off underwater and putting it back on. Those more thought involving, more strenuous types of skills are ones that rarely students practice on a regular basis. I do. I run over a number of those, even though I teach it all the time.
Right.
So I get to practice all the time. It's still just for my own benefit good to just do those. Not trying to demonstrate to somebody, just making sure they're there for me, not as a demonstration. I think the one skill that's probably not practiced nearly enough by most divers is the full mask removal and replacement. I've had to kind of browbeat Tara on occasion, just once in a while to do it. She really, really hates it when I do it. But after the first few times of me saying, "Hey, could you just do it? Just do the skill, just so I know that you still can handle that." Because it is disconcerting, especially if you're, she and I both wear contacts, so that becomes even more of a challenge.
Yeah, it's true.
Even all the more reason to practice it. But now, every once in a while, she'll just do it, and she'll tell me, "I practiced this skill, I practiced that skill," and of course, I'm quick to commend her and say, "Hey, good job," because it's important to encourage that kind of behavior.
I remember when I was being certified, we had, I don't know, at least four other people there.
Right.
That seemed to be one of the most challenging things for everybody, but for some reason it wasn't a challenge for me. I was able to do that.
50%. I would say about half of the time I ran into people that it's just the biggest challenge for them, and then the other half it's like, oh, wow, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and then also the filling the mask full of water, and then that wasn't an issue with me.
To me, it seems like it's easier to just pull the mask off, put it back on. It's putting water into the mask and holding it, because I know if I've got to take my mask off for some reason, and then I'm gonna put it back on and immediately clear it. I'm not gonna intentionally fill it with water and then clear it. I'm taking the thing off for a reason, or it got knocked off kilter, and I'm putting it back on and I'm clearing it. So that seems like an exercise that makes more sense, even though that would really requires more steps and would be more challenging in most cases. But I think the biggest thing that bothers people when they're trying to do the mask clearing exercises is water in the nose. Most people are not mouth breathers, contrary to what I think about some people.
Would those be the same ones that we are knuckle draggers?
Yeah, they'll be mouth breathers and knuckle draggers. Most people are very uncomfortable breathing through their mouth. So what happens is, when they're forced to, because of the way scuba works, I watch, and I'll notice the mask when they are inhaling, I'll watch the mask pull in and exhale.
Yeah.
Inhale, exhale.
I found myself doing that a couple of times. But
and it's tough to get past that.
Well, I consciously recognized it. I was like, okay, that's maybe something that I'm used to doing, but I have to change my perspective where I'm at here. But I also found myself doing, not exhaling. Well, I was holding my breath, which is
you're not supposed to do that.
It's like, why? But I was asking myself, why are you holding your breath? You've got a tank full of air on your back. I still need to hold your. So I think what I was doing at that point, when I was holding my breath, is I was trying to control my buoyancy.
Oh.
And
the rather than hold your breath to try and create that effect, the trick is to control lung volume, which you're doing it one way by when you try to hold your breath like that. But it's all a matter of, okay, do I breathe shallow or do I breathe deep? Now, there's a normal breath that you take. Let your body naturally take that breath. Because if you try to do it too shallow, you will, at some point, you'll feel out of breath. And so you'll find that you have to breathe faster or intentionally over-breathe deep, super deep, in order to get what your body is craving. If you tried to breathe too deeply constantly, then what you start creating is a hyperventilation situation, which also can be a problem. You can create a blackout situation too. So if you just get into your normal breathing rhythm, then it's just a matter of realizing, okay, do I have the right amount of air in my BC? Is it too much, too little? And then if you see that you need to increase that, increase your displacement, that's when you force yourself to take the deeper breath. But you normally only have to do that once or twice to affect a rise. And if you find that, okay, I'm rising a little bit too much, I need to counter that, and you're pretty sure that you've dialed in the amount of air in your BC that you need to, and just you're slowly creeping up a little bit more than you thought to, that's when you forcefully exhale everything out so that you counteract that. And there'll always be that 1 second delay. And as you start to, but don't exhale it and then hold the exhale, because then you want to take a deeper breath pulling in. So you just get that rhythm. And so you can breathe normally, but you just work volume and pace.
So would it be, while you're underwater, while you're scuba diving, would the goal be to breathe as normally as possible, as if you were not scuba diving?
Exactly.
So there isn't another pattern like take a normal breath but exhale slower. Nothing along those, unless
you're trying to adjust
just for the buoyancy purposes.
Yeah.
But otherwise, once you've found your mostly neutral buoyant position, just breathe normally.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you find that you're breathing normally and you're still creeping up, and taking deeper breaths or exhaling quicker is not, whatever the situation is, not getting you where you need to, then you probably don't have the right amount of air. But it's the small, it's like that movie Contact, small moves. So let just a little bit of air out of your BC. It doesn't take much to make a big difference. And same with putting air in. I've watched a number of newer students and just fresh divers. They blow through a big chunk of their air just in putting air in, letting it out, putting it in. So they end up trying to control the seesawing effect, all with the power inflator, rather than dial it in and see where you're at. And then if you're not quite where you want to be, see if it's your breathing pattern. If your breathing pattern is under control and you're still either going up or going down, then you make a very short, very small adjustment there. And again, that's all part of the practice. There's, Patty has a fine-tuning your buoyancy course, specialty for folks who really want to get that nth degree out. But for the most part, if you can get it in the ballpark, it's just experience that gives you that, what your body does. You can't just mimic somebody else. You can try to, but it will. For instance, you're bigger than me, so your lungs are larger than me. So if you tried to mimic my breathing style, it actually might exhaust you to do that, because A, I've got a lot more experience at it. B, my lungs are so much smaller, my rhythm works for me. That rhythm probably would not work for you. You'd probably feel out of breath.
Well, I found, going back to trying to control buoyancy just with the BC control, I didn't do as much of that.
I noticed that. Initially, you were trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing here? But once you got it settled in, every time I look back there, I could hear you.
Yeah, I hit it a few times, but it mostly came whenever we started getting below the 35-foot mark, the 30-foot mark, when things begin to change atmospherically. That's where I had to make some adjustments. And again, like you said, very slight. Makes big differences. And I do have to say, for me, comfortably, where I feel the most comfort is around 45, 50 feet, somewhere in there. It feels really good. It feels almost natural.
And when you're diving in places like the Caribbean or whatever, that's usually the range. You know, anywhere from 30 to 50 feet is where you'll see most of the stuff to see. Out places like Amistad, I like to go to the well, right now it's probably in the 60-foot range, but because the lake is down so low. But a lot of the places I like to go, like Castle Canyon, going down to the 90, 100-foot depth, is where a lot of the formations rock walls. I like diving on rock walls, and so a lot of the formations are typically around that depth. But right now, of course, they're shallower. So you just get used to where you prefer to dive, looking for what you want to look for. You know, we were seeing a lot of fish just in the 30-foot range. So what was that one silver one? Was that a tilapia or drumfish?
I don't know what that was.
That was pretty cool.
I caught it out of the corner of my eye.
That was big.
That was huge. I don't know what that was. I just saw as it was moving off.
Yeah, it just had a weird shape to it.
Yeah, I didn't catch it right away, so I don't know what that was.
I actually have a smaller one of those on a video that I took with one of my younger students that I had a couple years ago. A bunch of carp came around.
Now, the carp I saw.
There was some big carp.
You can always see them. They're just big, ugly fish.
Yes.
They're just not attractive at all.
No, but it's just kind of neat to see something that large in the lake.
They were pretty good size. Those were probably, 15-pound fish.
Yeah.
They were pretty good size.
Yeah, if you like eating armor.
Yeah, bones.
Armor and bones. Chunk fish. So, since the last podcast, we've gotten to see a couple of movies.
Yeah.
So I figured I got in the show notes to kind of talk about thoughts, impressions of two movies that we got to see were Battleship and Men in Black 3 in 3D. So, all right. So, what were your thoughts about Battleship?
I liked it overall. It kept you clued in pretty much from the get-go. There was, they had to build the story a little bit in the beginning, but it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I think it was well done. I know it hasn't been received so well by critics, but
which kind of amazes me.
I like what I like, and if they don't like it,
that's right.
I
don't know art. I don't know art, but I know what I like. Of course, it's a movie by Hasbro.
I thought that was
hilarious.
Funny.
It was hilarious. But I liked the movie because it had a little bit of language in it, but which kind of annoyed me. It didn't really need to be there, but it was one of those kind of formulaic stories of the ne'er-do-well kid who kind of got a good heart, but he doesn't quite mesh with everybody else, and so he ends up getting into the Navy, and you see him kind of take a point of responsibility, and it's kind of left in his hands to start manning up and making the right decisions. So it was I appreciated generally the storyline, and it was great that the story hit on some other people in the movie who weren't as primary a character, but you got to see them kind of in a great light that really showed when people are challenged that they can step up. A great homage to our wounded warriors.
Yes,
loved that.
That was awesome.
A great homage to the greatest generation, the World War II.
Yes, that was
vets.
good.
I thought that was just so cool that they got a chance to step up and show their mettle and say, you know what, they still got it.
Yeah.
Like, all right, kids, get out of the way and watch. Let me show you how a real man does this. It was great. I just really appreciated it.
I like the fact that they allowed, I guess, the writers, producers, whatever, that the old timers are the ones that ultimately brought the invaders to their knees.
They brung it.
Yeah.
They brought it. It was good. It was good. So yeah, that movie has been kind of down by the critics, and I just. Of course, the stuff that critics seem to like is just stuff that's offensive and just disgusting. And, like The Hangover. Stupid movies have no socially redeeming values, and then you have a movie like this that does the military good and just is a good story. Again, could have done without some of the language, but it wasn't as bad as a lot of movies are. But just a good story. It's entertaining, cinematically well done. If I had any complaint about the movie, it was some editing points. I thought, why did they cut from this to this? Just things that kind of distracted from my focus at different points. I thought, well, I would have liked to have registered that information a little bit more. Kind of like with the Avengers movie, it was the same kind of situation. There were points where I wanted to register what I just saw, instead of just being that everybody likes the big thing in vogue now as that shaky camera thing. That gets annoying when it's too much. I understand they're trying to get the man on the street kind of feel for it, but this is a film. I want to see it as a film, not a Blair Witch Project kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's expecting it
right
as a film, so you don't have to go into the other realm.
Yeah.
Although there are moments when perhaps it's appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great tool, but these days it seems like this particular tool is like the kid who got the new stomp box for his guitar. He uses it on every flippin' song he plays. I'm like, come on.
Enough with the wah-wah pedal.
Yeah, really. No, stop. Just stop. I'll take it away. I'll pull the battery. I'm serious. Yeah, it's horrible. Now, the other movie, which we just saw, Men in Black 3, I was a fan of the first two, and I'd heard not excellent things about this one. So, but I've learned these days that if the critics hated something, I'm probably going to love it. And if they love something, I'm going to despise it. So I thought, okay, well, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to like this. But I'd heard, other than the whole time travel thing, and they had, Josh Brolin doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Imitating Tommy Lee Jones. It was great. Talking about somebody who must have studied him hours upon hours to get the mannerisms down.
He did that well.
Yeah. But
he even looked old.
Yeah, he did. 29. He's got some city miles on. It's a great line. Great line. Because I know people like that.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, this movie surprised me in that it took this. I think it was a nice completion of their story. Yeah.
I was thinking about it last night, as a matter of fact, and I was thinking, well, I don't know. I guess we can talk. I don't like to be a spoiler. You know?
Me neither.
But there's some moments toward the end that perhaps answer some questions.
Right.
So I want to go back now and see number one.
Yeah.
And see if I can make the correlation there.
Exactly. Because, especially, I don't want to give too much away.
I mean, I thought
it was a great ending. I have to admit, I cried. I cried at the ending.
It was good. It had a good, touching, realness to it.
Yes.
Again, like you said, it kind of tied everything together, which was good.
Yeah.
But for me, those kind of movies, there always seems like there should be more, because they're good. They're good enough, and you're into it far enough, and then the end comes. It's over.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not that it wasn't good. Even not that I was expecting more. I just wanted it to keep going.
Right.
And as I tell my wife, okay, I want to rewind and I want to watch that movie for the first time again. I don't want to know anything about it. I want to see it again.
Which unless we had that device they had, ain't going to happen.
And it was. We've already seen the first two Men in Black, so we're already used to the idea of aliens and all that. So that kind of they had to find something a little different.
Right.
Like the first one, the funny thing about it was, realizing that all these people that were on Earth that were actually aliens, and you kind of got a kick out of that. So,
yeah.
But overall, it.
That brings to one thing that brings to my mind one thing that I kind of didn't like about this movie was that the aliens were obviously aliens.
Yeah.
In almost every case.
It's true.
Whereas the first movie, for sure, you were like, oh, wait a minute. you did not recognize that was an alien till something revealed. You know,
Right.
it's like pulled the hat off. You
Right.
know, a very Rod Serling, Twilight Zone-esque kind of thing, where the guy working the counter pulls his hat and he's got a third eye,
Right.
or
Yeah.
he opens his jacket
Yeah.
and you see a third arm. You know, something like that, where you're like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
But with few exceptions, the people who are aliens in this movie, you're like, okay, that's clearly an alien. That's clearly an alien. Just, and they're walking around like no big deal.
Yeah, right. I thought that was kind of odd too. In some of the scenes, they were like in a restaurant, and
Yeah.
they turn around, and they're obviously not not human.
Not from this earth.
Yeah, so I just I guess you
Yeah.
just absorb it because you figure, well, this is
They gotta move the
part of the
story
movie.
on.
And
Yeah. So, but all in all, I really liked this movie. Contrary to whatever critics might say, I'd say go see it. And like you said, Troy, I think I think it would be a good idea now to go back and see the first one and see if there were some other pointers.
Mhm.
You're like, okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Now, speaking of movies, here coming up either next week or the week after.
the 8th.
The 8th,
I know where
yes,
you're going.
Yeah. Prometheus. I literally grew up with the Alien saga. I remember in high school getting the various Cinema, Fangoria, some of those magazines. I remember in high school getting those magazines and reading up on Ridley Scott and H.R. Giger, and looking at all the drawings and mock-ups and special effects they were working on for the first Alien movie, which really was if you can stomach that kind of a film, just sheer science horror, it was just so well done in all aspects. It had just the right amount of, we're not going to see quite yet what's going on,
Mhm.
and then just puts you in that point of just saying enough to just give you the creeps. And as the director of the new movie that's coming out, Prometheus, he said, I wanted to make sure that this movie didn't ruin the first Alien movie, because he said that was pretty much as about a perfect a film as you could get, and I'd have to agree.
Mhm.
But this one is, according to Ridley Scott, Prometheus is not meant to be a true prequel, but set in the universe of. It's a prequel in that it happens before the events, obviously, and it involves some of the cornerstone pieces, Wayland Corporation. You see the alien gunner, and you see the ship, or a ship like the one that you see in the first Alien and in Aliens. If you see the director's cut of Aliens, you see that ship, or a ship like it. I'm pretty sure, based on what I've seen so far, it's supposed to be just another ship like that from the same race
Mhm.
of aliens. But you see a lot of tie-ins saying, well, I want to watch Alien again, looking for specific details, so that, and this is what the director was saying. He said, I want you to be able to come away from this movie so that it could have sequels itself, because it branches. It tells you, it should give you some explanation of certain pieces in Alien, but not necessarily be the sequel to Alien. So it could be like, oh, that's why they had things like this. All the eggs were arranged like this. Well, you see something like that in Prometheus.
Right.
But then he could still go off and do a sequel to Prometheus that's still in that universe. It's kind of like the whole Aliens versus Predators thing.
He's probably already thinking about that.
I think probably Ridley Scott is totally forgetting the Aliens versus Predators bit.
Oh, no. I mean, he's probably already got in his mind
where he wants to go.
He's
with the
kind of
franchise.
a George Lucas kind of guy,
Yeah.
where he's thinking, far in advance.
Yeah, exactly.
Of what where he could go with it.
Right.
Because so far, it's neat how they market a movie, or with the previews, and they give you these snippets of it that probably are never in order anyway. They're not they're not chronologically, as far as the movie's concerned, in order. So it's drawing you into certain things.
Right.
And I'm looking at, I don't know how many times I've seen that preview now, and I'm still trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, well, what is that?
Right.
How does that tie in? And I don't understand. So
but
now,
all will be revealed.
Yes.
According to the director, it'll all make sense.
Well, now I want to go back and see Alien, because
We have them.
You do?
Yes.
Because it has been 20 years since I've seen Alien.
And we have the director's cut of all those too. So,
And the first time I saw it freaked me out.
well, like I said, I was just like, that was all the late 70s when those
Yeah,
came out.
it was-
Because you had Star Wars, you had of course Star Trek coming back on the scene, and you had movies like Alien.
And what was interesting about Alien, I hadn't thought about this until you started talking, bringing it, about how the movie itself was a perfect movie.
Right.
I started thinking about it. That movie, for the time, and even still today, it had a feeling to it that nothing else was like that. I mean, it was all. I mean, you knew you were watching a movie,
Right.
But it was almost as if it wasn't a movie.
It was.
I
It was
don't want
almost
to get too
documentary.
deep about it. Yeah, but
it had almost a documentary feel because you felt like you were on the Nostromo, which was the name of the ship. You felt like you were on the Nostromo and I remember reading the magazines of the time. They were talking about how much detail. I mean, they looked at things like submarines to get an idea how those people lived. So you saw certain things that were shiny, new looking,
mm-hmm.
and other areas that were truly gritty. I mean, but they wanted to give you a hint that this ship was so large that it literally had its own weather system.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where I can't remember his character. Harry Dean Stanton played the character, and he's looking for Jonesy the cat because they thought him had it trapped. And he's in one of the big cargo, or not cargo areas, but maintenance bays, I guess, because they had a number of like racks and everything for pulling up engines and parts of mining equipment, etc. And literally, you got condensation, you got water raining, falling like rain, like a mist in there.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trying. They were wanting that effect. They wanted you to believe the size of this thing.
If I remember right, and I don't know if this was rumor or if it was a fact, but of course, the most famous scene from the movie is when the alien
The chest
comes.
burster.
Yeah. That when they did that, it was a lot of the cast members were not aware of what was actually going to happen.
I seem like I recall reading that too, because they didn't. They wanted the reactions.
They
to be
wanted
somewhat
a genuine. And
that only obviously hurt. Forget his first name now. Anyway, the actor who was the victim,
right? And
knew obviously.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was with an interview with Sigourney Weaver or with Tom Skerritt or one of them. I can't remember. They saying yes, the reactions you see are genuine. They're not. I mean, we're actors, but that was, genuine shock or whatever when it happened. I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, anytime you can go for the more real reaction, the more honest reaction it comes across. So definitely, we're looking forward to that movie. So between now and then, we need to get together and watch the first Alien movie over again. Well, let's see. We're really closing in on the tag here. Let me do a couple things here. It's my turn this week. ScubaBob and I switch off doing a commercial. So this week is my turn. So I'm going to talk about Oceanic. Now, as an instructor, I use Oceanic dive computers for both the students as well as myself. Now, I'm a big fan of Oceanic because they've traditionally had relatively inexpensive computers in a variety of ranges of capability and cost, really helping make upgrading your equipment from straight analog gear to digital to dive computers much more affordable at an earlier stage in your dive career. I in particular prefer the VO 3.0 dive computer, which you see illustrated here. I have this particular rig set up. This is their slimline, their SWIV console has the analog pressure gauge, and then behind is the computer is the compass. But you see, it's a actually a 3-button configuration, 2 on the front that advance or back up your selection, and then a select button on the side. Really is a versatile computer. It uses multiple algorithms. You can go for conservative or relatively liberal dive tabling that it does on the fly. And of course, as with most computers, it has alarm system that you can configure to let you know if you're going deeper than you planned, or to let you know you're ascending too quickly, etc. Let you know that does the 3-minute countdown when you reach your 15-foot safety stop. It gives you all the critical information. And if you purchase the optional data cable, USB cable, you can actually offload all of your data from the dive computer to the software that Oceanic provides to you free, and you can keep a digital log on your desktop or laptop of your dives. Awesome gear by awesome company. Oceanic actually also makes Eris, Hollis, and Lavacore dive equipment, computers, etc. Eris is just another line using similar technology. Sometimes you'll find some of the Eris line a little bit less expensive. Of course, they trim off some features a little bit to do that, but it's all still very, very good gear. Bob Hollis is not a strange name to diving community. He started back in the 50s, back when diving was, we're talking sea hunt days, with Lloyd Bridges, etc. And he expanded it out to all areas of the scuba diving realm as far as equipment. And this is their 40th anniversary, so you'll see a lot of specials. They have a contest running if you want to visit their website to check them out. But definitely I urge you to check out Oceanic if you're looking to expand your gear from analog to digital. Try out the VO 3.0. They have the VO1 and the VO2 and the VO3 and a number of other models that are even higher end, even full color. But for a good solid computer, I like the VO 3.0 by Oceanic, where innovation is first. Okay, now also wanted to throw, so we were talking about different places you could dive around here. We do have some dive trips coming up. 15 through 16 June up at Balmoral State Park, and 13 through 14 July, and 17 to 18 August. So if you're in the West Texas area and you'd like to join us on any of those, I think probably for sure the June and July have their cabins all filled up. They may have also the campsites all filled up, but you can try. You can give them a call, go online with Balmoral State Parks and see what they have available. But we'd love to see you there. I'll be bringing the dive trailer up there, so have plenty of opportunity to have fun up there. And also have scuba classes coming up 28 June through 1 July, 26th through 29 July, and 23rd through 26th of August. Now, speaking of Balmoral, I have just a little bit of video that I want to show some folks
Nice.
from one of the trips we had up there.
This is your video.
Yeah. The visibility is awesome there. It's just very clear. I think on this dive it was silted up a little bit because this was the second day, and so a lot of the other divers there, when we typically show up like on a Friday, it's pretty good because it's clear. There's not a lot of people there, maybe a few swimmers, but that's it. So we try to get in and get a couple of dives in on the Friday before sundown, or we try to even get to do a dusk dive. It's not quite a night dive because it's so clear. It's still not bad even after divers are there, but as you can see, it's still pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's not very good visibility,
yeah.
I would not be complaining at all. Is that you?
That's me, inverted.
I'm going to say that has to be you. I saw that move today.
Yes. My lovely wife Tara was running the camera at that point.
Is there a piece of equipment or that I was attempting to make some
adjustments?
I wanted to look above me. A lot of the formations that were above me, I wanted to see them.
Right.
So I was turning over on my back. Well, when you turn, you typically will get water in your ear, or you can. Is there any way, any plugs? Or anything you can
I
use
have
for that?
seen some plugs that are out there that supposedly, I've not tried them, that supposedly help keep water out of your ears but still allow you to equalize. See, that's the danger. Putting something in your ears
That's what
is
I
it,
thought.
it disables your ability to equalize. Whoa.
Whoa.
Hello. It's sped up.
Wow.
That was weird. My computer must be doing some weird stuff. I really wasn't swimming that fast.
Like a Keystone Cop.
That would be bad. That would be dangerous.
You're a Keystone diver.
I was. But, yeah, there are some plugs out there that supposedly, oh, great, one of my dogs has a squeaky toy. Crazy. That supposedly help reduce, if not block, water in your ears, but don't block your ability to equalize. So you could always try those out. I've gotten to where it just doesn't bother me.
Well, I was thinking about, there was a couple times when I turned, I got water in my ear, but it didn't stay.
Right.
I mean, I could
Well,
hear-
because when you equalize, think about it, you're letting air into the cavity there, and a lot of
That's
times it
true.
will actually escape out. So,
Oh, by the way, speaking of air escaping, what were we seeing today on the bottom?
I'm glad you brought that up. Well, if you remember, when we were heading out there, we were going deeper. And a lot of those little caves that we were looking at, and especially me, I was poking my head in so I could get the light up and see. So air was, from our exhale, was getting into the cave proper. But that just shows you that those caves are not completely sealed.
No.
So what you were seeing was the air that was, gradually
cool.
working its way up through cracks and crevices in the rock to where you could see the little bubbles coming out at different points, just out of nowhere.
See, at first I was thinking, is that a spring? I was like, well, why would there be air? But then, okay, that makes sense because we had went on our way
back. We were shallower.
Yeah, on our way back we were shallower. So
Right.
we were deeper and we were hitting some of those formations and we came back. Okay.
Yeah, we do that a lot over in Castle Canyon too, because there's a lot of shallow caves that you can get into easily, but there's no danger of you getting stuck because they're shallow.
Right.
But they create a nice dome, and so you are releasing air, and you create this air dome in there, and then you come back over it later and you see little trails. You'll see air coming out several feet down from a place where you were just at. It's
That's
just
cool.
amazing to watch.
That porous limestone.
Exactly. Well, just see various cracks and crevices because
Yeah.
we believe it or not, we are not in a totally tectonically dormant area. I mean, we have earthquakes up in Alpine.
Mhm.
So, but all of this is shared similar rock strata.
Yeah.
So, a lot of this supposedly solid rock has seen its share in the past of fracturing, albeit slightly, from some sort of modern earthquake activity. So, one last thing. I was reading the other day where it looks like the Department of the Interior has been pushing a previously on the books regulation that forces all these oil rig companies to once the oil well is no longer productive and they shut down these rigs, they evidently have a 5-year time frame that they have to remove the rig. Now, what's happened over the decades is this rule has not really been pushed, and so a lot of these companies, they remove all of their equipment, but they leave the shell. They leave just the rig itself. And what's happened is these have become reefs. They weren't intentionally made that way, and there's not, I guess in most cases, not been an agreement with the Interior or the National Park Service or anything like that to specify that these would be converted to reefs, but they've been left. and along the same lines as somebody who has left their land fallow so that a new ecosystem evolves, or Lake Amistad, where it's been full for so long that a new ecosystem has evolved. These rigs have life. Fish and coral, etc., are all growing and living around these things. And they're a great opportunity for divers, and they're a great opportunity for people who do like spearfishing, things like that. But now the Department of Interior has gone after these oil rigs, abandoned oil rigs, and has been having them removed, saying you need to get rid of them. The thing is, when you blast these things to get rid of them, you're killing an ecosystem that has grown on these things. So it amazes me that the tree huggers aren't out there up in arms, the EPA isn't up there in arms saying, now wait a minute, you've left these things out here. Yes, it's been a law, it's been a regulation that these companies have to remove these things, but they've been left out there for decades, and they've become a thriving ecosystem, and you're just going to blow it up? That just amazes me, the opportunistic, hypocritical way that our government goes after things like this. Either you want to foster and protect these ecosystems, or you don't. Don't, when it's convenient for you, say, oh, well, I'm going to hide behind this rule. And when it's not convenient, I'm going to hide behind another rule. Now, what that means is these things are now disappearing. I mean, the opportunity to go out and dive on an oil rig is getting, less and less. So what I'd like to do is encourage folks to, if you're interested in how you can help, get more details on this, go to www.charterfisherman.org. And then look under on their heading, you have one of the headings is Hot Topics. Click on that, and you'll see some more details on this situation. And you can help by writing your congressman, writing to the EPA, to the Department of Interior, and say, hey, especially if you are a diver or a fisherman, let them know that this selective use of protecting wildlife is kind of ridiculous, and that they're killing a potential an important ecosystem that is also shared and loved by a portion of our citizenry. Those of us who are divers, we like the opportunity to go dive on things like this. It's no different than a shipwreck. It really is no different than a shipwreck. These are just happen to be oil rigs. Same. So check that out, www.charterfisherman.org, and then click on Hot Topics and check it out. So that's about all I have on the list. You got any other final words before we head out and have some ice cream?
Yes, my brain has been thoroughly overwhelmed at this point, considering the deliciousness that is awaiting me.
Oh no!
I will say this to the divers that are out there listening. And this comes from one who just got back in the water after 3 years. Don't wait.
Yes.
Go back.
Exactly.
You started for a reason.
Right.
I think most of us that did this did it for a reason. Not maybe we were talked into it. Maybe we were encouraged. But then once you got into it and you actually fulfilled the requirements to become a certified diver, you need to go do it.
Yep. So
I'm taking the prompting of my best friend Rob, and I'm going to continue to do so.
Cool. All right. All right. Yep, that's because, as you've heard us say time and time again, a sea card means you can dive, but diving makes you a diver.
Absolutely.
So until next week, where we'll probably have some report on the movie Prometheus, we'll see you next time on another episode of Two Guys Who Dive.